Hi. So if you've ever read any of my posts or perhaps listened to any of my music podcasts, you might know that I use a protocol, a safety protocol that I call S.I.R.I.S or IRIS, depending on the context. And S.I.R.I.S is an acronym for surrender, intuition, respect, inquiry, and science. When I call it IRIS, I leave off surrender because it means I'm speaking to a group of people whose surrender is too big of a jump. Even though surrender is my absolute first stop in terms of truly securing my own well-being. And in this life with so much insecurity, it's pretty amazing that there is something that promises that I'll be okay. So in terms of IRIS, intuition is the first stop with my protocol, and I'm here to share one at a time stories of when intuition served me by saving me from harm, undue suffering, or helping me to not create harm or undue suffering for someone else. This was maybe 15 years ago. I had gone to see one of my favorite bands play in a city about 45 minutes south of where I live in Seattle. And me and my friend were on our way home in my car, and I noticed ahead on the freeway that for quite a distance there seemed to be a lot of emergency lights moving fairly quickly, traveling the wrong direction on my side of the freeway. So we were going northbound and they were coming at us southbound. And they went down for must have been a miles, because at that point in the freeway you could see all the way to downtown, which was still another 6 miles off. So as I'm driving, realizing that cars are eventually going to be stopped, I see that there are cop cars that have set a barrier, not using their vehicles, but their vehicles have been pulled off to the sides and they're standing where they're going to stop us. The car in front of me was a big white van, and that van was the first car to be stopped at what became the natural barrier created by the vehicles, the oncoming vehicles, of which I was one. The van was in one lane. In the next lane, there was a semi, big old semi, and then I don't know really what was beyond in the other one or two other lanes. So the semi and the van both pull up to what was the natural barrier that the cops were creating, and I would be the second car after the van. As I was approaching this natural barrier, my intuition said, stay as far back as the length of the semi that is in the next lane. So it goes van, semi, right? Length of the semi, way back here. And then I stayed back here behind the van. So there was a semi's length of space between me and the van that was in front of me. As I sat and continued to see what was happening, I realized that there was a single vehicle that was not an emergency vehicle. It was some kind of old station wagon. And there were so many cop cars. I've never seen so many cop cars in my life, not on television, not anywhere. It was dozens and dozens of cop cars, if not more than, it was not, maybe not 100, but it sure looked to be about that many at one point. And this vehicle had been coming toward us for some time. Eventually, as the vehicle got closer and closer and closer to the van, it became clear that it wasn't going to stop. And so that the way the vehicle did end up coming to a halt was by crashing into the white van that would have been right in front of my vehicle, but I wasn't there. I was way back, a semi's length behind. And that van, of course, jumped backward into a space which was empty, because my vehicle was not parked there. The man who was in the car that was being chased reached for what, in the understanding that I have of what went down, was a gun in his glove compartment, and an officer ran to him and shot him on sight before he could do whatever he was going to do. And that was a tragic moment in a lot of ways. The reason the person had been being pursued was he had been involved in a domestic violence pursuit in a district nearby and was evading the police, and he had run over a cop on his way to escape. So they were determined to put an end to him. And so we acted as the barrier to prevent his vehicle from being able to drive further, and I was not harmed because that intuition said to me, don't Don't go further than the back of the semi. So that's just one of so many stories I have about how intuition has served me, and the purpose of my sharing these stories is to give some further understanding, illumination, and tangible examples as to why I choose intuition before anything else, above all else. Um, can't argue with results. Okay, thank you for listening, and I'll see you for the next one.